The nonprofit MBA purpose is to provide new business insights and fresh creative ideas for executive directors and their teams that will help them improve their organization. Here is your host, Stephen Halasnik.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Stephen Halasnik. I'll be your host for today's Nonprofit MBA podcast, and I am the co-founder of Financing Solutions. And for the last 14 years, Financing Solutions has been the largest provider of lines of credit to small nonprofits in the United States. It's a very popular product, especially now with what's going on in the economy and the political situation. And it's just, it's very good for cash flow. If you have any ups and downs in cash flow, that's what a line of credit is for. And if you're interested in learning more, please feel free to visit our website at nonprofitmbapodcast.com. Today, I am very excited to be speaking with Deborah Heiser from the Mentor Project. And today we're going to be talking about the benefits of nonprofit leaders having mentors. Deborah is an applied development psychologist and the CEO founder of the Mentor Project. She has been featured at TEDx and is a member of the Marshall Goodsmith 100 Coaches of Thinkers 50 Radar list. In addition to her leadership role, Dr. Heiser serves as the adjunct professor in the psychology department at SUNY Old Westbury. I guess it's out in Long Island. She is dedicated to guiding individuals through personalized coaching, helping them discover their true potential and achieve their desired life. Her new book, The Mentorship Edge, is available now and explores the transformative power of mentorship in personal and professional growth. Deborah, welcome to today's Nonprofit MBA podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, it's a great topic. I had a mentor for 20 years. He was an incredible what an incredible man, really helped me out a lot. And mentors can have so many different roles, don't they?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. People think of mentorship as just, a person who goes into a corporate setting at work and is looking for somebody above them to pull them up. And that's just one tiny part of mentorship. And it's not the most impactful generally. And, if you're trying to look for the biggest kind of impact, usually the biggest type of impact comes from a lateral mentor, someone who's not your boss, someone who has expertise in something you don't have, and where you can share your vulnerabilities openly, and that person can give you their guidance without feeling like there's competition in any way.
There's a couple of things I found. First thing is that I don't want to say everybody, but a lot of people want mentors, a mentor, right? There's a lot of people who want them. Number two is it's really hard to find one. And I'll just speak for myself. One of the things I learned was I was so determined to have a mentor my whole life that sometimes I would pick somebody to be my mentor and they really weren't the right person. I think I often put them up on a pedestal thinking that they knew everything. And even if they didn't know everything, they turned out to really not be qualified. Let's use that word. Have you seen people experience that same type of situation?
I've seen people really frustrated with mentorship, and it's really not the cause of mentorship. It's because there's a loose definition. So most people think of mentorship and they think, I will get this one person and they are going to change my life. This person is going to be the amazing guide. The person never thinks of what they're giving to the other person. It's really a grab. And that never works. And this is how we've been taught to think about it. Just go find a mentor and that person will help you out. But mentorship is a two-way street. And so really we should be thinking of mentorship as something that is the mentor focused. The mentor has an expertise, and there are people that need to match up with that mentor's expertise. And we shouldn't put most of our emphasis on one person, because then that becomes a burden for the mentor. Oh my gosh, I have to meet all the needs. I read all these stories about people, or articles, people saying, be an inspiring mentor. Oh my gosh, who wants to step into that? Now I have to think of how I can inspire someone as well. It really makes it a job. It makes something intrinsically motivated turn into something that becomes a task. So the way that I look at it is we should have mentors, plural. They should be as many as we possibly can have. So, for example, for me, I have someone who helps me with if I say, hey, I need help with, anything to do with treasury or law, or if I want to get advisement on fundraising or something else, I turn to a different mentor for each thing. And that way I can continue the relationship if I'd like and get more, but that isn't a burden on one person to carry everything. Otherwise, that person might as well be running the organization and not me, because they know it all. So I think that if we can turn it around and look at mentorship as more lateral and multiple mentors, it'll help us not to feel like we have to find this one person who's a needle in a haystack. Instead, we should be looking for hay in the haystack.
Do you think that is a paid person a mentor?
No.
Okay. I was thinking like my psychologist or some other people who I pay. Why are they not mentors?
So a coach is not, an advisor is not. These are all paid people. A psychologist is not. And there's a reason for that. Mentoring is an emotional developmental milestone within the emotional developmental milestone called generativity. It's like walking and talking. So we hire coaches, psychologists, advisors, or people like that to do things with us or for us. So we hire a coach if we need to have a goal to, hit the ball, as a home run every time we want to play baseball. Or if we're in the workplace, we have a specific goal that's work related. Mentorship is us. It is taking someone else's expertise, guidance, or value and putting it into our knowledge base. We're internalizing it. We are not looking for therapy for that. It's to get us to a new knowledge level. Therapy is to get us to think, have insight, or feel differently, or behave differently. So here's the real breakdown of it, though. If you are mentoring, it has to be intrinsically motivated. And that means that, I'll give you an example. If I were to say to you, hey, would you like to go volunteer time at a soup kitchen? I'd like it if you'd give out food and beverage to hungry, thirsty people. And if you said, yes, I'd like to do that, it would make me feel really good. That's wonderful. Now, if you're on your way, you're driving, and I say, hey, don't go there, turn left instead and go to Starbucks and volunteer your time there. You would not feel good doing that while everyone else is getting paid. That's the difference that it feels to us when we're being paid or not paid. So a mentor is not paid. I could be doing much of the same stuff. So what I tell my students who I advise, they'll say, well, you're mentoring me. And I say, no, this is part of my job. I'm doing a good job. When leaders say I mentor, no, you're being a good leader. If a coach says I also mentor, no, you're being a good coach. These are part of your job. You're doing what you're supposed to do. If you're seeing your psychotherapist or your psychologist and you feel like they're mentoring, no, they're doing their job. So a mentor doesn't have a job of meeting with you. It's an emotional relationship. It's like your friend. If you have a friend, you don't pay them to hang out with you. They hang out with you because they like you and they want to be with you. And it's a two-way relationship. So that's why you want to have a lot of mentors, but only one coach. You want to have a lot of mentors, but only one advisor. A lot of mentors, but only one psychotherapist. And we lose out when we think that we have our coach or a therapist or advisor also being our mentor. It makes us feel like we've got it all covered, and we never do. We need mentorship for everything in our lives, and we should be seeking that. If we say, hey, can you help me get the lay of the land of this new workplace? And the person says, yeah, they show you, that may be your last time being mentored by then. but that's still mentorship. It stops us from connecting because we think we have it all covered.
I'm trying to think which question I'm going to ask next, and I'll let you pick it. This is the two questions that are on my mind. The first thing is the most obvious one that that we were going to cover is, where do you find a mentor? But the other one is how do you know that the person you chose has the qualities, experience? I don't like the word qualifications, but I like the word experience better, to be your mentor, to be helpful in what you're asking that person to do.
So let me start with that one.
Okay.
So mentorship is not it's not a job description, right? So it's going to be a relationship. So if I were to say, "Hey, I want to meet with you and see if, first of all, you want to start with, "Hey, do you have any advice for me on this?" And you should think that, I should think that you have some advice that you can give me. Start it there. Now, if I said, "Gee, I know that you have a specific kind of mentorship or information that I'd like to receive. You're a hardware engineer. I'm a software engineer." And I say, "Hey, I'm doing a project. I need your skill set. Can you give me the time?" You have to already have the desire to want to give back. That's called generativity, a desire to give back to me without expecting anything in return. No money, no pay, nothing. And I then have to say, "I want what you have." Next is, you have to be willing to do this for no pay. And I have to be saying, "You know what? I value what you're giving. I am going to take that and I'm going to internalize it and do something with it." Otherwise, because mentoring is a two-way street. The job of the mentee is to say, "You have what I need," not to say, "I'm going to sit around and find out, do you have everything that I'm looking for?" I also have to be thinking, what am I giving back to you? Am I the right recipient for the information you have? What if you say, "Yeah, I have all this information, but I'm not actually somebody who is going to take what you have and give it out. I don't want to do that. I'm not the right fit for you either." So next is, there has to be a meaningful connection. We have to be able to connect and say, "Yeah, you know what? I'm going to find out more about what you have to offer and what I have, how I can be this vessel to take this information on further." And then we also have to trust each other. If you say, "I'm not telling her what I know," she's going to run away with that and start her own company and steal my information. I have to trust you. And likewise, if I say, "Oh, I'm not going to ask him anything because I want him to think I know everything," and being vulnerable in front of him is going to make me feel like he's either going to tell others that I don't know something, or that I won't get a pay raise, or whatever the deal is. So, and finally, there has to be a goal. And you don't want to make the goal, "I want you to change my life." The goal has to be something doable to start with. Can you show me the lay of the land on what it looks like to start a nonprofit? Can you tell me the first few steps that I'd need to do? You start at a point where you can get to know each other, and then you move it forward. So you don't want to start, it's not like if you find a therapist and you say, "I'm going to look for a therapist and I'm going to hope that they're really good at depression or anxiety and they have a specialty in that, and I'm going to now see if I can work with them for an extended period of time." With mentorship, you're really getting to know that person and seeing how far it's going to go. It may be once, or it could be a lifetime, or it could be somewhere in between. But you have to look at that as, I'm going to keep tweaking my goal until it, I either exhaust it, we change our relationship to becoming friends, or something like that we move it. But we also know that mentorship can weave inside and out of that. I could be friends with you. You have a skill set that I'm interested in. You can mentor me in that. And then we go right back to being friends. And the same thing. Likewise, you could then ask me for information. So an example of that would be, I was in graduate school and I got a phone call from someone while I was at my externship. And she said, "Hey, I remember that you know how to do Kappa statistics. Can you walk me through how to do that on the phone right now? I have a project due later today and I don't want them to know I don't know this." So I sat on the phone with her and I walked her through how to do Kappa statistics. She did her project and she didn't have to ask me again about it. We were done. And that was mentorship, a friend who turned into a mentor, and we went right back to being friends. So mentorship is very fluid, and it's something that the boundaries can change. And it's not quite the same as if you get into a contract with a psychologist or a coach or an advisor or something like that.
Now, going to that other question, which was, the 1,000-pound gorilla one, and that is, where do you find a mentor?
I tell people you look to your left and you look to your right. You have more people than you know. And I'll give you an example that I talk about in the book. People think I have to go find the right person, and they're all around us. We just don't realize it. So here's an example. In 2002, this Columbia Space Shuttle was coming back to Earth's atmosphere. When it hit the Earth's atmosphere, it disintegrated, to the horror of everyone looking. 2005, they figured they had the problem solved. That was the issue with Columbia. They sent the next mission up. And the astronaut that's in there was like, yay, here I am in space. This is great, fabulous. And then he gets a call from Mission Control, and they say, hey, you probably have the same problem that the other one had. Now, what do you do with that? You can't open the door and say, I'm out of here. You know that the problem is going to be coming back home. So he was like, oh my goodness. He didn't trust calling his bosses. They just called him and said, we don't know if you have a problem or not. So what he did was he went to his list of really close friends who he trusted more than anything, and who he knew his craft, the actual engineering of the shuttle that he was on. He was on the STS-114. He called somebody he was really close to. He said, hey, do I have to call my daughter and tell her I'm not coming home? Or is there something I can do? Teach me, guide me, give me advice. And he sat with him on the phone while he was in space and walked him through what was needed. And he said, I think you need to do a spacewalk. So Charlie called Mission Control and said, we need to do a spacewalk. They did it and they made it home safely. So that was a mentor that he never knew was there. That's a lateral mentor. He absorbed all of this information. He had to learn it while he was in space. This person had to mentor him through this situation in space, and it saved his life and every other crew member. Now, we don't think of those as mentors, but those are the most powerful mentors that we have. If you look at the founding of the United States, that was by a whole bunch of different experts in different areas who came together and through lateral mentorship formed the United States. There were people who were around them, and they just had to look to their left and look to their right. So when we're looking for this magical person out there, it makes it really hard to find them. But if you just go through your contacts, you'll find that you know someone who knows someone, or they themselves know someone. And it takes that burden away from you, feeling like you have to find this perfect individual who's going to embody everything that you're looking for. It might be that you need 4 people for what you're looking for. And in that way, you could say, oh, I just need a little of this from somebody and a little of that from somebody. And that's where we can find our mentors. So for me personally, if I am struggling in an area with the organization, I turn to somebody. And one of the first people I might turn to is, say, Fred Klein, who is the head of Gotham City Networking. He knows everybody. He'll put out a message and say, who knows somebody who knows this? I might call one of our advisors and say, it might be like Cher Murphy, or it might be Damon Gersh. And I might say, do you know if you can help me with this issue that I'm having? And they may or they may not, but they'll probably be able to reach out to somebody who does. And so that's where I suggest to people, remember that you are not alone in a silo, and all of your connections are just there for you to tap into. Everyone is a mentor around you.
You mentioned, I was going to ask you about, you said Gotham City mentoring.
Networking, yeah.
Or networking. So there are companies out there that will, so that's more of a networking group. So that's a little different. That's more for business connections and stuff like that. Is there anything on the internet that helps you find a mentor?
So I think that any organization that you look to, it depends on what you're looking for. So if you're looking for something specific, if you sell widgets and you want to find out about that, it's probably going to be, do I need a sales mentor? Do I need what do I need the mentoring for? You need to be as specific as you can. And that's where most people have the problem. They say, well, I just want somebody to get me to the next stage. Well, what does that stage look like? What's involved in that? Is that you need the next stage is money? And is the next stage of this that you need new structure? Do you need a platform change? Do you need new employees? What is it that you need? And so if you need general guidance, you're going to say, I want to talk to maybe another person who has run a nonprofit. And then you're going to put that message out if you don't know another person who runs a nonprofit, and you're going to ask. Now, I have someone who runs a much larger nonprofit than I do. I seek her advice constantly because she's seen it, she's done it, she's lived it, she's failed it, she's done it well. And so, we need to make sure that wherever we're looking, that we're looking to people who have a specific bit of knowledge that we need. Now, that person, I go to her, and then we don't need to talk about it. Then I'll go to her again, and then I don't need to talk about it. So a lot of people think I'm going to go meet with my mentor every Friday at noon. And that's not how it should be set up, because it's not therapist. It's not a coach. You meet when you need to meet. Maybe sometimes you're meeting for 4 hours at a chunk, and then you don't need to talk to that person for a little while. We should be thinking of mentorship as goal-oriented and for what we need at the moment. And we also need to say to ourselves, well, what are we doing for them as the mentee? We have to know that if we add no value to that relationship, and it's not a tit for a tat, it's if I know that when I am being mentored by the woman who has the much larger nonprofit, that when I carry that information that she tells me, she feels amazing. Like she gets to see it work and it makes her feel good. If I do nothing with it, it makes her feel like I just gave a gift that somebody said, ew, I didn't want that. So in any relationship, we need to know what we're offering to that person. And when I say to her, I'm going to try this, I'm going to let you know how this works. And that makes her feel amazing if it works out.
So I mentioned earlier that I had a mentor for over 20 years. What was interesting looking back at it, I never said to him, would you be my mentor? Mm-hmm. What I did was I asked him to meet with him for lunch. I was very young at the time. I was 26. And so then after that meeting, I said, do you mind if I give you a call in another 3 months? Or, do you mind if we get together again for lunch in 3 months? And we continued that. And during the 20 plus year relationship, I never said to him, you're my mentor. Maybe 15 years into it, I said something like that. But I think that was good. He happened to be the right person for me. But I think that's good too, that people don't start off the conversation by looking at someone's credentials and mm-hmm. what they've done and say, would you be my mentor? Because, I think you want to make sure the chemistry is right. You want to make sure the person knows what they're talking about. You want to make sure you understand the scope of what you're looking for mentorship to do. I'm just basing this based on my experience. Would you agree with that, what I'm talking about?
Absolutely. Yes, you're saying exactly what it should be, which is that you want to know who you're meeting with. You don't want to say, be my mentor. That's a burden. It's like, it literally feels like walking up to someone saying, will you be my friend? You look like a weirdo. And that's what it feels like when we do that. And that's because we're not taught. We are taught from an early age how to interact and make friends. You start out with a conversation. Hey, I see you're reading that book. Or, hey, I see that you like, this activity too. How long have you been doing it? That's how we start with, making friends or acquaintances. Mentorship is the same. It's not like we're hiring somebody and we're interviewing them. That feels weird. What we want to do is to say, hey, how long have you been running a nonprofit? Oh, how long have you been doing finance? Oh, what do you feel like, about whatever selling widgets is? And then when you develop that relationship, you can tell right away, just like you can with a friend, you know what? Great person, not my person. And same with, great person, maybe not the person I want to get my advice from. And that's where you work it out. You just described that beautifully. You don't ask to be a mentor. You want to look at the scope. That's a goal. What do I want? What do I want to learn from this person? And you set it up where you say, let me take the baby steps. Let's meet again in the future. That's a completely appropriate way to have a relationship with someone else where you are emotion focused, just like you are with a friend, where you are saying, you know what, I'm taking into account that this person has to like me too, and that they need to see that it's worth their time to meet with me.
What about in the cases with the nonprofit executive directors who are listening, in a case where they maybe decide that they want somebody who's on their board to be a mentor to them? Is there a conflict of interest there at all?
No, you can be friends with anyone. You can have mentors anywhere. So I can get mentored by a mentee. That happens all the time. We're always mentoring and being mentored constantly. It's very fluid. So, if you look at mentorship, it's like a spider web. You probably have mentored someone today and you just don't know it. In fact, being a podcast host is a form of modern mentorship. There are people who are on the other side that you don't even know, who are resonating with what you're saying, feel meaningfully connected with your message, who say, I'm learning something from this. I'm going to take this and I'm going to go use it. So it's a weaker form than an in-person or knowing individuals, but it's still mentorship. We're doing it all the time naturally without knowing it, but we have this sort of corporate hijacked version of mentorship that's made it into our vernacular, which is saying that you should have this person. It is their job to tell you what to do and to guide you. Get your person. And it makes it feel like if we don't see that vision of some nameless, faceless individual out there who's our person, that we don't have what we need. But we do. We have a whole, it's like Hermione's bag that we're carrying around, and you can open it up and pull like mentor after mentor out of our contact list. So if you are meeting with your board members and they're mentoring you, appropriate. Same in the other direction. Your advisors, they're mentoring, appropriate. A person who you're working side by side with, appropriate. Outside of your organization, appropriate. It could be anyone.
I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but I'll ask. I feel like I don't know. I don't think I feel like the United States does. The people who live in the United States do a nice job of finding mentors. Are there other countries that do a really nice job with it? It's in the culture. It's part of, the way you move up the ladder, regardless of its life or whatever.
I'll tell you that there are two ways that I'll answer this. One is that we do it great here. We just don't call it mentoring. Every single like the forming of our country was done by lateral mentoring. Every big entrepreneur endeavor that has made it, Apple, anyone, you name it, is through lateral mentoring. It was never one person in a garage that was like, I'm good. And you will hear multiple mentors. Like Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak were mentors to each other throughout their careers together. If you look at any big thing that happened, that is through mentorship. People just don't call it mentorship. They'll say, oh, I collaborated. Oh, I worked with. But, the internet network firewall was created by lateral mentoring. Bill Cheswick was tasked with figuring out how to create a network firewall. And he didn't, he hit a wall. He didn't know how to finish it. So he wheelied himself down the hall to Steve Bellevin and said, hey, I think you know this different kind of engineering than I know. Can you tell me what I'm missing? And he helped him. This did not help Steve Bellevin's job. It wasn't part of it. And Bill just said, hey, this guy's nice. I'm going to go ask him for some help. And he helped him. And that's what we do all the time. We're good at that in the US.
Gotcha. Cool. What question haven't I asked that you think I should have?
I would say that you've done an amazing job asking questions. The only thing I would say after this is, my apologies, is that if a person is looking to get a mentor, really take a look at your contact list. Take a look at what you're looking for, because most of us have a vague idea of what we're looking for, and we're hoping that someone else will solve a big problem for us, when really, if we break it down, we have people in our networks who are around us, and it might be 4 people that we're really looking for, not just one. And if you do help someone with anything, acknowledge that you've been a mentor, because it makes you feel, you get the good feelings that come from that. And that leads to a longer physical life and a healthier well-being outcome if you're able to do that.
Yeah, I agree. Well, it was a great conversation, and I learned a lot. It was great to kind of go back over even my history of why I selected my mentor, how it came about. I think, my big feedback is just don't give up.
Yeah.
It took me 7 years to find that mentor who turned out to be, very influential in my life. So I'd like to thank so very much Deborah Heiser from the Mentor Project for coming on today's podcast. And if you like today's podcast, please feel free to share it with a friend, and also subscribe to your favorite podcasting app. And if you like today's podcast, please give us a 5-star review. And if you're looking for a line of credit, please feel free to visit our website at nonprofitmbapodcast.com. Deborah, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, how would they go about doing that?
You can find me at mentorproject.org, and you can find the book, The Mentorship Edge, anywhere you get books, including an audio format. And you can also find me on LinkedIn.
Great. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
As everybody knows who listens to the podcast a lot, I always end it this way. I just want to remind everybody that, firstly, I want to thank you as listeners for trying to make the world a better place. I know Deborah and I are both doing it in our own way, but you guys are out there every single day working super hard to make things better in this world. And I thank you for that. I just want to remind you that burnout is a big problem in this industry, and you need to make sure every day that you think about yourself first, because you're no good to your cause, you're no good to your employees, you're no good to your family, you're no good to yourself if you are just burned out and you're just, let's face it, solving the world is a marathon and not a sprint. So just please keep that in mind. Every day you should look at, the night before, the day in the morning, usually the night before, saying, what do I need to do tomorrow for myself that I really like? It could be exercising. It could be praying, meditating, just going for a walk, some quiet time, talking to a friend, whatever it is that you need to do to kind of make yourself whole, and just keep that in mind. Other than that, I want to wish everybody a great day, and thank you for listening to the Nonprofit MBA podcast. See ya.